We pull people up from state elections, like we're talking to Lily Tang. Occasionally, we'll even talk to people who are running for state council or for city council at the very local level, not just at the state level. So I think it's very important that people understand that it's difficult to get information about who these candidates are at the local level. It's a little bit easier once we get up to people who are running for federal office like U.S. Senate. But it's very important that you do the homework to find out what these people are going to do and get behind somebody who will really make a difference. And, of course, that could be your local sheriff, standing in the gap, standing against the tyranny of the federal government. But I think it's also important to take the fight to Washington. It's important to cut Washington off when they do the wrong thing, but it's also important to send good people to Washington who will fight for liberty. And that's the key point here. Not necessarily setting up security or safety or prosperity as the key thing, but liberty as the key thing. So I've said many times before, if you give up your freedom, to the degree that you give up your freedom, you become a slave. Slaves are never prosperous. Slaves are never safe. So there is no trade-off between liberty and prosperity. There's no trade-off between liberty and safety. You need to put liberty first. That's what our founders understood. Those were the principles that our country was founded upon. And now in this election, I think people are beginning to wake up to understand that if they don't do something in this election, we're not even going to have a sovereign country anymore. We're going to be ruled by foreign globalists. Now, real quickly, before I go to Lily Tang, I want to let you know that we have a sale that has just started on Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. That's at InfoWarsLife.com. I'm not sure how much longer the sale is going to last. It's a new sale. It's 20% off of InfoWars Nascent Iodine. This is something that is very important to prepare for you and for your family. It's something that you need on a regular basis as a supplement for your health, but it's also something that you need to have there if you get into an emergency situation, just as you would store food or water, or you would have heirloom seeds. You can also prepare with Nascent Iodine. Again, it's 99.99% pure iodine salt crystals that come from deep within the earth, lab tested for purity. You can get it right now, 20% off. That's our sale that we're running at Infowars.com. Let's go to Lily Tang joining us now. Welcome, Lily.
Hi, David. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to talk to you, especially because I've been to China and I've seen how people I was there 10 years ago. I'm sure it probably hasn't changed now, but I saw 10 years ago how people there still idealized Mao. And I was absolutely amazed by that because I've seen what the effects are, but not like you have. You grew up under this. Tell us a little bit about this. On your website, you say, I was a slave before, I will never be one again. Tell us a little bit about your life growing up under Mao. I want to also talk about your policies because Leanne McAdoo will have you tonight talking about the Cultural Revolution and the details of that. But I'd like for you to give us a quick overview of what it was like to grow up under Mao.
Well, I was born 2 years before Mao's Cultural Revolution in Sichuan province, southwest of China, mountain state. Of course, that I went through entire 10 years, hunger, poverty, and socio-economical chaos. And during that time, and I was so indoctrinated as a student in government schools, I even did not know I was a slave. I just woke up about 20, years later in this country to realize I was a slave. My government lied to me the entire time, but I just did not know it. To give you the condition what we live under, so-called free government housing, because my parents worked for state factory 6 days a week, but could not keep us fed. We live on food ration coupons. I had to get up as oldest child in the family in the winter morning to line up in long line to get wheat flour, a bag of potatoes. Otherwise, they'll be sold out. And where we live is like 8 families share a commune, a courtyard with 1 bathroom, no indoor plumbing. And so that, one for male, one for females. And when also it's dinner time, you line up to get the water from 1 faucet. And there was always a long line, and I had to cook for my family because I was oldest child. I was 6 years old. I had to stay home, babysit my youngest brother because, my parents worked for state factories but could not afford, childcare. Which was not really free childcare. We had to pay for it. We had to pay for everything. So they keep me at home when I was 6 to babysit my 1-year-old baby brother. And I was pulled back from school for 1 year. I was so upset. And so they got me a ticket to watch Romania fighting Nazis as my reward.
What woke you up to the fact that you were a slave? You said you didn't know that you were a slave, but what woke you up to that?
When I gave up on China, came over to this country 28 years ago, I was about 24 years old. I was fighting against my Chinese communist bosses in law school when I was a faculty in Shanghai the whole time alone, because people were pretty much indoctrinated. And so I feel like I was very alone fighting them. But I still believe in government. That's the only thing I was told in my entire life. If you give me a political quiz 28 years ago when I first came here, I would be statist. So I came here with $100 in my pocket borrowed without English speaking skill and $1,200 in debt owed to my American professor so I could go to graduate school. And I just had a big dream. This is a free country and government is going to leave me alone. I have constitutional guaranteed rights and I'll be fine. So I just started raise family and start business, got my degree. But I was statist. I did not know other answers to our problems. My husband is a libertarian, so he slowly educated me about, what kind of solutions we could have besides government. So I read some books and I did research on all the lies that the Chinese Communist government lied to us because I did not know. We had no freedom of speech and freedom press. They told us 50 million people died of starvation was caused by 3 years natural disasters. So I did not know that until I come to this country. It's because Mao's central planning policies causes people to die. So when I totally woke up, it was 2008, and I become libertarian. And I truly become big believer of libertarianism, where I have rights and freedom to pursue my life any way I see fit without government interference. And they should not stop me from doing things I like, even though they might not like it. So I become big believer 2008.
That's great. I like to see people we've talked to people who grew up in Eastern Europe under communism there behind the Iron Curtain. And of course, people like you who grew up under Mao and under communism, people who have felt the chains of slavery, or even somebody like John McAfee, who's felt the bite of tyranny. I think it's very important. People who have been there, who have done that, who have lived under it, they have a passion for freedom that you just don't find in people who have been free all their life. And that's what we're missing in this country. Too many of us have grown up for generations in a free country and don't appreciate that anymore, and even beg for somebody to control our lives, to make us safe, to make us happy, to protect us. And we feel like we're going to be able to get that if we somehow trade in our freedoms. How do you address that to people? Is that what you see in America? I mean, that's what I see amongst my American friends, is that they're just so willing to give up their freedom. They treat it so cheaply because they've never truly been deprived of it. They don't understand. That it is leaving them very quickly.
Because they were indoctrinated by the government.
Yes.
I see that our public schools are failing to educate our kids to really have passion for freedom, limit the government. And that's governmental school indoctrination I experienced during Cultural Revolution. I did not know I was slave because everything government told me to say that's good for you. It's good for public goods. And, to share about, the privacy, for example, our home was wide open. The Communist Bloc Committee members can walk in. Our teachers, principal come in to home visit to make sure everybody is on the same page, to be loyal to Chairman Mao, to the party. I never heard of concept of privacy until I came to this country, because that's just part of where our life is. They track us from birth to death, and then they tell you it's good for you. They were telling us we should be grateful for the party, for Chairman Mao. They saved us because 2/3 of the world population was starving. We had 100% tyranny, but we were told to believe that's good for us. It's sad to say my friends in China today never had this kind of awakening like me. They still tell me today, Lily, our life under Chairman Mao is not too bad.
Yeah.
I was speechless. I'm going to teach them when they come to this country.
Well, it's interesting. 10 years ago when I was there, it was to adopt my daughter, and she was staying with a foster home. She was outside of the orphanage at the time and staying with a foster home, and the family that she was living with gave her a note and said, obey your government. Do everything they tell you to do. We got that translated, and I said, oh, they gave her to the wrong family, if that's what they want her to do. But that is the mindset that permeates China to this day. And as you pointed out, they do that through education. We've seen that. We understand that was the design of Plato and the Republic. He said, if we're going to have a strong state, we need to get the kids away from their families. They don't need to know. We need to make sure that they don't even know who their parents are, that the only loyalty that they have, the only family that they know is the state. And that's what we see with the communists as well. And that's what I believe is behind our own cultural revolution and things like Common Core. Now, I've seen your videos, and if people go to your website, it's tell us your website.
My website is lilyforliberty.com. LILY is number 4, lilyforliberty.com. I wanted to use this name brand for my Facebook, Twitter, and website to build my political activism. Regardless of election, outcome, I'm going to be committed to liberty movement in this country for the rest of my life, because I have really realized that this country is going down wrong path. We are losing our freedom rights every day, and people still. Lots of people don't get involved or don't know about it. And that's why I'm running for U.S. Senate, because I'm reminding people, I hate to say this country I love becoming more like the country I left. And I have passion for freedom, for limited government. I came here for my American dream, but I'm worried about my children will not have the same dream that I had, and to achieve them. I'm really concerned, and that's why I'm doing this full time.
I agree. Now, I've seen at your website, I've seen the videos where you're speaking out against civil asset forfeiture, against Common Core, other issues like that. Tell us what you would do if you were elected to Senate. What would you do to reform? What would be your first priority?
Well, I will hold one of the 100 senators' votes dearly. I will explain my votes to the people. I will be the guardian for our freedom and our rights in the U.S. Senate. And I tell people that some people get elected and say whatever to go there, then they sell us out. What I will do, because exactly I despise those kind of politicians. If I go there as a first constitutional libertarian, I'm going to shake up the status quo. I'm going to expose the corruption. I'm going to expose the crony capitalism. I may not get important committee positions, but I sure will tell people what's going on in Washington and explain my every vote. I will always vote for more freedom and less limited government. And if that's the way it is, people say, oh, you're not going to get any powerful positions there. That's fine. I'm going to let my voters decide if I'm doing a good job for their freedom, their rights or not.
Well, I've seen, and we've all seen many times, how just one person in the Senate can make a huge difference. We had Ron Wyden, with whom I have very little agreement on most of the issues, but he stood up and exposed the lies of James Clapper and the NSA. He put him in a position, asked him a question, and you saw James Clapper lie about surveillance, and then right after that, the Snowden leaks came out. So it's very important for us to have somebody with integrity, somebody with the right values in the Senate to see what's going on, to be a whistleblower. Tell us, though, something like Common Core, for example. We know how that is being used to manipulate, to engineer our society, to engineer our children, to dumb them down deliberately. We've had books written about that. Charlotte Iserby, Phyllis Schlafly wrote a book at the beginning of the Reagan administration, talked about the deliberate dumbing down of America. Now, this is it. In spades, Common Core. But they not only do they make sure that Johnny can't read or write, they also make sure that he is filled with their social agenda. That's where the social justice warriors come from, that sort of thing. What would you do to stop that?
The root of the problem is not just Common Core, whatever other name they use, no child left behind. The root of the problem is we let the federal government taking over education, taking over our classrooms, our parental rights, our choices. I would like to sponsor, if I could, a first bill just to defund the Department of Education. Reagan tried that, did not make successful, and that's my top issue. The education is dear to my heart, top issue. To get rid of federal government interference in our education, get rid of indoctrination, get rid of data mining of our children, is to defund Department of Education. And for every 11 cents they give to us at local level, state level, we have to spend 50 cents to comply with their mandate. So you cannot really trust and take so-called evil's money. It comes with all these strings attached.
Oh, yeah.
People need to wake up. I tell my Democrats friends, teachers,